Yeah.
So those of you who were here thinking that there might be a dialogue, our role is simply to listen, and that doesn't any disrespect to you.
Thank you very much for the clarification. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Chair?
Yes.
Point of information, at least for me, when would be the most proper time to bring forth a motion to the effect that this subject be moved to the full board? On the agenda.
It's not on the agenda. It's certainly not on today, but if you want to have a discussion in one of our meetings, we can have that discussion. But
Well, this is one of those meetings. So
yeah,
this is when the board decides matters. So you tell, I don't want, we have a public hearing coming up, but is it appropriate under reports and recommendations?
what's your suggestion?
My suggestion would be that I would move that the county board have a continuing conversation with respect to the Family Service Rochester targeted case management program at the November 17th board meeting. That would be my motion.
November 17th is, did you mean October 17th?
And Mr. Chair, just we can talk about dates, Mr. Chair. Today my whole issue is just process.
I got it.
We're adding 27 people. We're adding certainly salary and benefit provisions associated with them. I certainly state law strongly suggests or maybe even requires that county boards make decisions along the lines of this kind of significant decision. And then moreover, if you read the provision that was before the administrative committee this morning, it says based on the information provided, the Board of Commissioners has two potential options, and one of them was chosen. But it doesn't say the administrative committee has two potential options. It does say the Board of Commissioners has. So as one Board of Commissioners, I'd like to exercise that option by being able to talk about this either on November 17th or another, pardon me, where are we here in November?
So your motion is,
At our next meeting.
all right, so your motion is to have this discussion at our next meeting. Do I have a second to that?
You do.
All right, I have a second. Is there anybody else who wishes to comment?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, we have had, Olmsted County's had a long association with Family Service Rochester. Over the years, if you look at the full range of services that are provided in partnership with Family Service Rochester, it's quite a long list. I reviewed our January board agenda when we approved the contract for this year, and this is a principal partner for the delivery of a whole variety of services. We have not provided an opportunity for that partner to tell us what the consequences of this impending decision would be on their viability. I happened to look at their 990 report. They showed last year a profit of about $193,000 on a $10 million budget. That's a very narrow margin. We are proposing to reduce their budget through this action that we're taking by over $3 million a year. How does an agency survive who's been a key partner with us for many, many, many years? How does an agency survive who's been able to provide services to us that we can't do on our own, that we don't have the personnel, the talent, or the time to do, who's been willing to flexibly meet our clients' needs? And how do we not provide an opportunity for the full board to hear the potential consequences? Now, there's good argument. We could ask how it came about that we have so many Family Service Rochester staff co-located with county staff. There are issues there that probably do need to be addressed. But there's the broader issue of the survival of this organization, the broad array of services it provides, and the consequences to the community of our withdrawal of a contract for what I heard an admin committee will net us about $250,000 a year, but will also then, maybe have some other benefits. But we haven't really dealt with that. We haven't delved deeply into that. It never went to the Human Services Committee. It's come only through admin. To me, this is much more than a contract issue, and that the full board needs to be fully engaged in understanding what's being proposed, what the consequences of it are, and what alternatives there might be. Because my understanding, and I have not seen it, that an alternative was proposed, but I have not seen that as a admin committee member or as a human services committee member. I have a certain amount of passion for this, as the chair knows, and I know that I just feel that this is a long-standing partner, that we should be engaged deeply in looking at, in dealing with this partner, and with the consequences to the service delivery of our community if we were to terminate the contract as proposed. I don't feel that we have really delved into this in the way that we should, in a responsible partnership that we've had with this agency for so many years. So I wholeheartedly support Commissioner Senjum's request that we not only remove it from today's agenda, but that we have a firm time to deal with this issue as a whole board.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chairman, I just add, my concerns today are just about process. I won't get into the arguments whether or not this is a good program for us or not, but I think the process is important. I think a decision as significant as this does belong with 7 members and not 3. And I don't think the legislature intended it to be that way. I think, frankly, again, looking at the document which the administrative committee reviewed this morning, it does suggest that the full board of commissioners are going to make this decision. I think that's what you approved. Whether you kind of knew it or not, that's what it says, and the words speak for themselves. So, again, my plea is simply let us talk about this issue and vote it up or down as a full board.
Thank you, Commissioner Senjum. I would disagree with you that it is a process. The process has been followed. The process is correct. And there is nothing illegal or unusual about the process. So that part I don't accept. But I will accept your motion. All right, and I do have a second. Is there any other comments? All right.
I'll just add that I don't think it's truthful that there has not been discussion and that there is a lack of information on this. Each of us board members has been fully informed on this issue, and I appreciate the passion that the people that came up in front of us and spoke brought. This is not a reflection of the work that FSR has done and continues to do in other fields with us. This is a reflection in my mind of that the formula has changed, and that has made this contract lopsided in that we are throwing away levy dollars to continue the contract, and that is difficult for me to continue to do. We are still going to provide the same services under the Olmsted County umbrella. May not be all the same employees, I can appreciate that, but we are still going to provide the same services, and we're going to save the levy $210,000 to $500,000
Right.
year after year.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think there is
Do you have anything new
Yes,
to
I do,
say?
Mr. Chair.
All right, I will listen carefully.
I think there's another issue that underlies this, and that is, what kind of relationship do we have with community partners? How do we respectfully engage and change with community partners? There's also the issue of not looking broadly to the full spectrum of services that are needed in the community that we do not provide, but we need strong partners who can? And what will the impact on the loss of this contract be on the availability of some of those services and on the viability of that partner? We have not delved into that. We have not really heard from that partner about that. And so, Mr. Chair, I really think that this is an issue that we should not make as informally or only by committee, but with full discussion of the impacts and full discussion of alternatives,
Right.
which we have yet to do.
Thank you very much. And any other comments? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would concur with many of Mark's points and won't reiterate all of the details, but over the last 30 days, we have had many, many discussions as commissioners with staff. Clearly, finances have changed, and the formula and all of the funds behind this program. We have fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers in Olmsted County, and that is one of the variables we took into account in making this decision. It's the focus of many of these discussions, but I will tell you that there were many other variables that were evaluated. HR implications, there are some big HR implications for us as a county of currently how these employees are being handled regarding county employees sitting side by side with FSR employees. I am well aware that our staff have been in continuing conversations with FSR leadership to have an understanding and discuss opportunities for new programs that we have need for. Social service impacts are not going down, and the need for these types of services are not going down in this county. It might not be targeted case management, but there are other opportunities. We absolutely value FSR as a valuable partner, and in no way does this reflect that they have been a poor partner. But we have to take into account all of the data, all of the information, all of the variables that affect how we manage county staff, county budget, etc. And we have been presented with that data over the last 30 days, and we have had those discussions. And I believe we're making the right decision.
Thank you. All right. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes, Commissioner Cascaden.
I don't believe that the process that we have used followed our normal process. I think this should be a very open, broad board discussion in the full public view with the full engagement of our long partner, Family Service Rochester. I think we need to spend more time on this. I may well come to the place that I agree that we should transition this service, but we don't even have a plan for how we're going to do that. There's been no discussion of that. It's more than an administrative decision. And this does have broad consequences for us as a county, potentially, in terms of our reliability as a partner, our openness of how we make decisions. And I think that we really need to do this in full public view in a transparent way with full engagement.
Thank you.
And that is not where we are.
Thank you. We've heard from you now several times. We understand your point of view. There is disagreement, which you can tell. All right, so I think it's time for a vote. There are no other comments. Anything else? All right, so we'll call for a vote. All in favor of Commissioner Senjum's motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. No. Motion fails. All right, now we shall move on with our meeting. Thank you very much. The public hearing for the tobacco sales and youth access ordinance revision.
Good morning, Chairman of the Board, esteemed Commissioners, Denise Daniels, Director of Public Health. I'm here today with my colleague, Pahua Moa, who is a community health specialist who has done significant work around our tobacco initiatives in Olmsted County. We're here today as we need to look at updates to our tobacco sales and youth access ordinance. In, I believe, August of 2020, the state legislature made updates to the state statute, which then requires us to meet those. That's the language within the state statute updates. So two things that will be reviewed today. One, what those changes are that we will need to adopt, and then two, another recommendation about how we enforce violations, subsequent violations. So without further ado, PH will go over those changes and any additional information. Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself again, please? Yes.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Pahua Mua, or PH for short, and I'm a community health specialist with public health. Like Denise said, I'm just going to be going over some of the notable changes and updates to our tobacco sales and youth access ordinance. So a little bit of background, so we're on the same page. Denise had mentioned some things here, but the state had made changes as part of their Tobacco 21 legislation back in August of 2020. And the last changes that have been made to our ordinance was in 2019. So how does this apply to us at the county? Well, all jurisdictions must enforce the new statutory amendments, and to be consistent with state law, we are updating our ordinance as well with the necessary changes. And we are updating them today. If you might be wondering why not sooner, that was because public health staff was helping or responding with the COVID-19 pandemic in the last couple of years. So here's like a high-level summary of the required changes that the state has made. There's an increase to the licensee penalties, which I will go over on the next slide. The minimum legal sales age, or MLSA, increased from 18 to 21. So you have to be 21 years of age now to purchase a tobacco product. The compliance check decoys must be at least 17 and under 21, so 17 to 20 years old. The criminal purchase, use, and or possession, also known as PUP penalties, have been eliminated from state language. And then there is a signage requirement that all licensed retailers must have in plain view and public notice that they have to say you can't buy products if you're under 21, you're subject to penalties, and that they will check the photo ID of anyone who appears to be under 30 years old. So these are the licensee penalty updates that we are making, again, to mirror state language or state law. You can see what's crossed out is what we used to have in our ordinance, and what's highlighted in yellow here is what state has changed in their law. So, for example, when a tobacco retailer fails their compliance check, meaning that they had sold to a minor or someone under 21, the first occurrence penalty is a $300 fine. And if that happens again in a 36-month period, that second occurrence is a $600 fine. The third occurrence is a $1,000 fine and a 7-day suspension. Again, all of this is just mere state law, so it's what Minnesota has. We'll talk about a fourth occurrence and subsequent in a little bit. This is another change that state made, and it just essentially says that they no longer require a fine for clerks who sell to a minor. The fine is $50. That has not changed, but instead we may use training or education as a substitute for that fine. So here is the proposed change that we are recommending, and it is to include a fourth occurrence penalty for licensed retailers who fail their compliance check, again, sell to someone under 21 in that 36-month period. The purpose of this change, well, first I should say the fourth occurrence recommendation is a $1,000 fine and a 30-day suspension, so a license suspension. The purpose of this change is to, one, provide clarity for both the county as well as licensed tobacco retailers on what happens during a fourth occurrence and any subsequent occurrence. State law doesn't have this in their language. It's gray. It's really up to interpretation, and we don't have anything in our county, and we have had this happen. And so this is just to provide clarity, again, for both the county side as well as for retailers. And then second, it also provides accountability. It's also best practice to have this and happen, like I said, in case this does happen, which it has happened in the past. Here's a summary of the ordinance changes. We are amending and reenacting sections 2202, 2203, 2205, up to 2210, 2212, 2213, and 2215. We are also repealing the whereas clauses in Chapter 2200 in our tobacco sales and youth access ordinance. Thank you.
All right, why don't you stand for questions. Does any of the commissioners have questions? Please.
So,
Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair?
I have Mr. Commissioner Tyne first, and then you.
my questions are on the current state law, or the state law as it continues forward. The fourth offense would be what?
So they don't, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Tyne, they do not have anything right now so they have up to the third occurrence, which I can go
Yep, I
back.
saw that 7 days and 1,000, but then there's no penalty for a fourth?
It's up to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but it's up to local jurisdictions to make that decision.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, and if a local jurisdiction doesn't act, then what happens?
I think what we found, Commissioner Tyne, is just that on the rare occasions when it has happened, it hasn't actually deterred the offending. They just write it off as a cost of doing business. They're closed for 7 days, and then they continue to go on. And so,
So we essentially make the fourth offense the same as the third offense?
well, here by going basically from a 7-day suspension, which I think the retailers in those rare circumstances have said, it's just the cost of doing business. I can stand being closed for 7 days and not selling. A 30-day suspension really is going to have some teeth to it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Sorry if I misunderstand
Yeah,
your question.
I understand the logic of what we're proposing, but, okay, let me rephrase it. If there's a fifth offense under our new policy, what would the fine be?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, or Commissioner Tyne, that would be under that fourth occurrence. So it's any fourth occurrence and subsequent, so anything after that. And this is all within that 36-month period, correct?
Okay. And I don't know if this is a question you can answer, PH, but when businesses starts having we catch them doing this, do we increase the amount of times that we go there then? Or is there a pattern?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Tyne, yep, we have our environmental health officer, the one who goes out with our young person. So I believe here in Olmsted County, we go out twice, regardless of whether they succeed or fail. And that's twice within that 36-month period. And if they do fail, I believe they do try to go out more.
If they fail, we try to make sure they're doing it right.
Correct.
Okay, I have no questions.
All right, Commissioner Sandrum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may not be a question for you, I don't know, but I'm just looking at the construction, if you will, of the ordinance and the inclusions of findings of fact. I'm not altogether totally familiar with all of our ordinances, but I've read a lot of them, and that's not typically part of our ordinance. Why in this case did we include findings of fact within the document?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Sanchez, thank you for the question. So the findings and purpose section is actually important because it provides evidentiary basis for the proposed commercial tobacco control policies that we actually have in this ordinance. It also demonstrates that the jurisdiction, so us, like our reasonings for adopting specific provisions, whereas I guess like what Tom had said doesn't have as much teeth. So the structure may be stronger in case of any legal challenges.
Okay.
So it's finding a fact rather than an opinion.
Correct. Findings of fact and purpose, correct.
Thank you. Are there any other
Mr. Chair, the problem is, of course, that, I mean, literally, if we find these facts, we ought to know these facts, and I don't know them. I mean, I haven't read all these citations,
Right,
but
right.
that's the reality, and so are really being true to ourselves as we see yes to this.
Sure. And that's part of the purpose of the public health, to do those things.
And Mr. Chair, I just have a couple of others that I would suggest are just housekeeping, and I don't know if you have the ordinance in front of you or not.
I don't, not right now.
Commissioner Sandrum, I do, and actually you spoke to me just before we started, and I've had a chance to look at the sections that you were questioning, so it's...
So, Mr. Chair and members, on section 221.2, on subdivision B, there's just there's a word there that says license, and it should be licensee.
And I agree that there was an
So
E
we
omitted,
can
and we should
we
add
can
an E
accept
on the end
that
of
and-
license, yes.
And make that a change we understand. if this passes, we will make that change.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move that as an amendment if we need to.
Yeah,
Want to just approve that as friendly?
sure. Right. We have to open up our public hearing first, and then
Okay,
we'll
sure.
take
I'm
that.
sorry. Yeah.
So, all right, thank you. Is there anybody in the room that wishes to speak for or against the proposal? Yes. You need to come forward, give us your name and address.
Eric Bennett, 215 First Street Southwest, Plainview, but I'm the owner of Bennett's Yoda Market in Yoda, Minnesota.
Okay,
We are one that they're talking about that has failed 3 times. We've done the corrective actions, we did the videos with all of our employees, we've done talks with them, we've had meetings with them, everything. As you know, in the workforce, we have good people out there, and we have some people that don't care. It's their job. They come in, do a job, and go home. How do we react? You can put all the services, you can put all the videos out. How do we make our 21 to 30-year-old employees not sell to them? We get fined for it, which is fine. We're doing wrong. Can we fine? We can't do anything to our employees right now. We can't fire them or nothing because of laws. What can we do to the employees? So,
Why
thank
can't
you.
you fire him?
well, we can check with legislature again or talk, but we were told from our Minnesota that we could not do that. They did something wrong, but
Minnesota's an at-will employment state. You could fire them.
Public health is nodding, as you
Okay.
can.
okay.
But
I appreciate your concerns. I mean, but every business has the same concern.
Yep.
you know.
Oh, I understand. I just came to listen to
I
it.
appreciate your comments, yeah. All right, is there anybody else that wishes to speak for or against the proposal? Is there anybody else that wishes to speak for or against?
Mr. Chair, I have one more question
Yes.
for the witness, if I could, that I forgot.
You want for the
All right,
Uh,
can we close the public hearing first?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. All right, Commissioner Sanjo.
So this probably doesn't pertain so much today, but it will as Elk Run fills out, as predicted. And it has to do with the religious, spiritual, and cultural ceremonies. And it suggests that if you're a member of a tribe and you are going to use tobacco for ceremonial purposes, that you can do that seemingly irrespective of how old you are. How is a proprietor supposed to deal with that? There's no provision about showing a card or anything like that. Has that been thought through at all?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Sanjem, that has been, and there actually is a difference between, so everything really in our ordinance is referring to licensed tobacco products or commercial tobacco products, meaning that they are manufactured and sold by big tobacco companies. What tribal, nations use and what traditional tobacco, so that term there, what they use is the actual tobacco leaf and plant. It hasn't been manufactured or processed. They don't buy it from retailers. It is their own. They grow it, and tribes are sovereign, and so they're able to do their own things within that nation. And so that's why we included that. And we do have it in our definitions, the difference between what commercial tobacco products are or licensed products. So yeah, we're not referring to the licensed products. They wouldn't go and buy those at the store.
And one more question, Mr. Chair. One of the things I learned a couple of years ago in the Senate Tax Committee was that 37% of the tobacco then used in Minnesota, per a study by the Department of Revenue, was bootlegged. So we have individual purchasers, we have bootleggers out there. Almost 3/8 of the cigarettes in Minnesota are bootlegged. Surprised me, but that's their study. Are there any provisions in here that would get at the bootlegger selling to?
I don't believe.
No, Mr. Canaan.
No, I don't believe so, Commissioner Senjum. I think that's really something that's pursued by the state of Minnesota, the Department of Revenue, if they're basically evading collecting, for example, collecting sales tax by having an illegal direct sale. But that's beyond the scope of our ordinance.
So so an individual could buy from a car trunk and whoever that might be would not be, under our ordinance at least, subject to any county activity relative to that action.
It would be regarded as any illegal sale of any bootleg product. All right.
Mr. Chair, I think that concludes what I had in my
Great.
notes.
All right, so I need a motion to accept the proposed changes in our tobacco sales ordinances with the understanding that one word from licenses to licensees will be changed.
So moved.
Second.
All right,
Mr. Chair, does that include this little provision I had, licensee
Yep, we just said it.
and so on?
Yes, we've
Okay.
included that in the motion.
I've got one more little housekeeping item. I
Yeah,
don't know if you want me to
and
mention it.
please pass the housekeeping on to
All right,
Mr. Canaan. We'll take care of it.
just language, so it's not.
We have a
it's not
motion.
Mr. Chair, I just as soon actually have Commissioner Senjum bring it up while we're all still kind of, before you've actually finally approved it, just to
Okay.
make sure the board approves whatever Commissioner Senjum's
All right.
housekeeping issue is.
So go ahead.
Do you want to hear it?
Yep. We always enjoy hearing from you, Commissioner
Mr.
Sanjay.
Chair, it's difficult because I'm working off paper and most of the rest of you aren't, but there's a sentence that goes like this. However, a hearing officer acting pursuant to the County Administrative Enforcement and Appeals Procedure Ordinance, and that says that. And so we're using the word that, referencing a hearing officer. I'm suggesting it ought to say who. And then it goes on to say has determined, and I'm just saying who determines, I think ought to be more proper language.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner, I think it would be helpful to Mr. Canaan if you give him the page reference. He seems to be trying to find it.
Actually, I had a chance, he brought it up at Human
47.
Services Committee, and I'm supportive of the change.
All right. Thank you.
I'll accept the amendment.
Sure.
Amendment to
So-
my motion.
Commissioner Sanjay, I would just like to suggest that you're a very good proofreader and you know a great deal about how ordinances are written. But it would be very helpful if you would have those done before the meeting, get those to Mr. Canaan or whoever it might be, and have these changes made so that the proper motion can come so that we don't have to debate whether it's a that or a who during our.
Mr. Chair, I could be a little argumentative because.
Yes, please do. I would ask that you.
No, Mr. Canaan does not approve our ordinances.
No,
We do.
he doesn't. I understand that, but if you have an issue,
Right.
and if Mr. Canaan agrees with you, then it's all proper to bring the appropriate motion before us.
Well, there is a reality in life, and I read this at midnight or so last night, so.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we have a vote. So all in favor of the changes and the amendments as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. All right.
Nice work.
Motion carries. We have a new, and thank you, PH, for your very well prepared message to the board. I do appreciate that. All right, so the consent agenda, we are going to remove from the consent agenda and speak about it later. Letter J, establish an absentee ballot, and Mr. Wallace will have something to add. And then we're going to take off letter K to set the public hearing date, and we'll come back at the next meeting to set a public hearing date for the cannabis products. So just to be clear, in case anybody has a question, the motion and the ordinance that we just passed deals with tobacco. All right, so the motion that will be for us in the future will be for cannabis. All right, so, but we're going to pull that one off and come back at the next meeting to set a public hearing. So, with that, then the consent agenda to approve the September 19th, 2023 Olmsted County minutes. Letter B, proclaim October 11th, 2023 as a financial worker and case aid day in Olmsted County. Letter C, proclaim October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Letter D, proclaim October National Community Planning Month. Letter E, proclaim October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Letter F, approve agreement to transfer jurisdiction and right-of-way of a segment of County Road 101 to the City of Rochester. Letter G, revoke county highway designation of County Road 101. Letter H, establish county state aid highway for CASA 47. And letter I, approve the 2024-2025 Minnesota Family Investment Program biennial program. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, we will now go to establish an absentee ballot board for 2023 special elections. All right, and we have before us a revised absentee ballot board special election proposal action, I should say. Mr. Waltz.
Morning. I have handed out an amended request for action and amended resolution which clarifies that the absentee ballot board will be comprised of at least 2 election judges as well as deputy auditor staff from our PRL office. Your prior board resolution did not make specific reference to election judges, and it's appropriate that the resolution do that.
Okay. So, Commissioner Senjum,
I would move the adoption of the resolution as proposed in the resolution.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All righty. So, any other questions? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your quick action there. We appreciate that. All right. Informal items towards 0 deaths. Regional coordinator will provide an Olmsted County update. It's an informational, yep, an update. Can you step forward, introduce yourself, and give us your information?
Well, first of all, I'm old, and I'm also the law enforcement liaison to Southern Minnesota for the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety, and I'm a former resident of Rochester.
Not anymore?
Ways. I was a trooper at the time, spent my best 11 years here. The state messed up when they hired me, and then they did it again. They promoted me and sent me to Mankato, where I live in the small town of St. Clair now.
Sure.
Valued my time here, but I'm here to recognize outstanding effort by one of your deputies, and we have in the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety a challenge coin. Now, if you're familiar with the challenge coin in law enforcement, it represents shared respect, honor, and camaraderie. But at the Office of Traffic Safety, we added one more requirement, and that requirement is you have to earn it. So I'm here to present our challenge coin to Deputy Christopher Streed, if he will come forward. He's honored for his, let's call it, head and shoulders work in speed enforcement during a recent speed campaign. During a 6-hour shift, he demonstrated exemplary effort and stopped 20 vehicles within a 6-hour shift. And what those 20 stops represent 20 face-to-face contacts to educate the public and provide accountability to assure the public safety. Right now, speed is our #1 killer. And so for doing that, we are presenting Chris with this award in recognition of Olmsted County Sheriff's Deputy Street's enforcement efforts on July 29, 2023. He is awarded a challenge coin from the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety, along with this certificate he can display. There you go, sir.
Deputy Steve, we'd like to hear from you.
Yes.
Don't go away. All right, so right after our presentation. So.
Now, this is going to be fun, this whole process, and we're moving into something that might not be quite ready for some folks. But first of all, I want to play just a 5-minute video, a snapshot that demonstrates the exemplary work being done by your sheriff's office. And I asked Kyle Brott, your media development specialist for the sheriff's office, to provide one of his videos to help us understand that. So you direct your attention to the short 5-minute video.
I will be posting today on the board for the shifts that we've got for not just the seatbelt, but the holiday DUI. So I've got posted that we're doing the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and then starting the weekend after, all the way through the end of the year, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday enforcement shifts. So they're aware of the dates, the times, and whatnot. So we're ready to go.
My name is Michelle Ness, and I'm the Towards Zero Death Coordinator for the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. Prior to this, I was a licensed deputy for the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. My career as a deputy started and ended because of a drunk driver. I started in law enforcement for the Rochester Police Department in the evidence room. While working in the evidence room and the records division, I met my friend Heather. We developed a really good friendship. We hung out outside of work. We had a good time while we were working together. Heather was kind of life of the party. She very free spirit, and we had a good time working together. She was great. July 25th, I remember that Friday very well. My husband had stopped by the office with our kids, and Heather was holding my son, who at the time was, I think he was about 9 months old. She was holding him, and as she's holding him, he's bouncing on her lap. And as I came into the office, she was trying to hand him off to me, and I remember just, no, you hold him. And I can't explain why I thought that memory was gonna stick with me, but that's what I remember the most about her, is just holding my son. The day of Heather's crash, it was a beautiful, clear, sunny Sunday, early afternoon. She was a passenger in a vehicle. She and the driver were driving into the Rochester area to just come get some landscaping. They were working on their house together, and they were just running errands, just a simple everyday task. And as they were driving into town, they were involved in a head-on collision. A drunk driver crossed over the center line and collided with their car head-on. Heather was transported to St. Mary's Hospital, and they did everything they could, but unfortunately the next day they had to discontinue her life support. After Heather's crash, I loved my job working in the evidence room and working in records, but I wanted to do more. So I decided to go back to school and get my education in law enforcement and got my license. And in 2007, a few years after the crash, I became a licensed deputy with the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. I made the traffic stop just like I did thousands of times before. I walked up and I could tell immediately he was impaired, conducted field sobriety, and determined he was indeed impaired. So as I went to place him under arrest, he decided that he did not want to go to jail, and a fight ensued, which resulted in an injury to myself and my partner. And unfortunately, my injury was career-ending. It broke my heart that I couldn't do these stops anymore, but an opportunity came up for me to be the TZD or Towards Zero Death Coordinator, and I absolutely jumped at the opportunity because if I can't make the stops anymore myself, I can inspire other officers to make these stops on my behalf. I try to encourage them to pick up these shifts and go out, try to keep the fire alive. I try to keep Heather's legacy, about getting these impaired drivers off the road. Just a simple planning ahead. These are absolutely pointless and senseless crashes. Whether you're the one that dies or the person you crash into is severely injured or dying, it's going to prevent so much heartache on yourself and your family, or the family of someone that you've injured or killed. If you know you're going to a party or you know you're going out for a few drinks after work, there is no reason why you cannot plan ahead.
Little did Michelle know when she helped coordinate and advise me of Chris's efforts that she was setting the stage for her own presentation of an award. Michelle? I was on my way to Rochester, and I came here a while back to present recognition to Michelle for her efforts in DWI enforcement. She showed up in civilian clothes and an arm in a sling. And I found out just hours before giving this recognition, working the night shift, she was injured. Neither of us knew that day that it would end her career as a law enforcement officer. But Michelle never quit. And so, little surprise, isn't it? So, you know what? Would you? This might get catchy. So I've known Michelle for quite a while. Eralways respected her, but I'm just going to go ahead and read this if I can see it now. For a commitment to the eradication of impaired driving and the heartache it causes, a pledge born from personal tragedies and sacrifice, a commitment that drives her to never give up. For all Michelle Ness is and all she does, she is awarded the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety Challenge Coin. Michelle, Olmsted County's TZD coordinator and intelligence analyst, is commended for turning tragic events in her life into positive action to guide her career of public service in traffic safety, and for her ongoing efforts to motivate, mentor, challenge, direct, and manage others in law enforcement to do the same. So, Michelle, here you go. And here you go. Proud of you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna cry, I can't talk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. I had no idea.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I originally said I had one award to present. I keep forgetting I'm getting old. There's more. I got a hold of Kyle and said, I want a video, and I got one in mind that I want you to play and keep it a surprise from Michelle, and I want you to play that video. Little did he know he was setting the stage for his challenge coin. Kyle? I will never give Kyle a good reference, because when the world discovers his talents, he could be easily gone, but he's committed to be here. So like I said, if you ever send anybody my way, I'm going to tell them what a terrible job you do. But Kyle, you're up next. And I'm very proud to do this. So I'm going to read this. As a media development specialist for Olmsted County Sheriff's Office, Kyle Brott has used his amazing talents to tell the story of lives impacted by traffic crashes, shared with the public through social media and educational opportunities, stories of heartache and death. He also shares the story of those committed to do all they can to prevent such needless tragedy from occurring in the first place. The story is the medium that impacts the heart and the soul, often causing change in dangerous driving behavior. Kyle's talents are rare and valuable, and he has used them to his utmost to advance traffic safety. Therefore, he's awarded the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety Challenge Coin.
Wow, thank you very much.
There you go.
I just want to say that, I do the work that I do because of the people that wear the uniform, people like Michelle. Those are the people that are out there really making a difference.
Sure.
So, thank you all.
Right. Kyle? Kyle, we're waiting for you to take a selfie.
Yeah. That camera too.
Yeah, all right. So,
I'm sorry, Kyle, did I give you your challenge?
Thank you very much.
Why don't you just stay there?
and another one.
Yeah, none of this would have been possible without leadership. Leadership that understands and respects the people that he works with and provides opportunity for them to use their fullest potential to achieve all they can achieve. My relationship with this next person goes back 3 decades. When I was young, well, I was never a young trooper. I was 30 when I came to Rochester, and little did I know the opportunities God had planned for me and the relationships I would make that'd be a lifetime. And one of those is your Sheriff, Kevin Torgerson. Sheriff, your turn.
I won't forget this.
Sheriff, little did he know when he helped me set this all up, and I said, you got to keep it a secret from everyone, with he also going to be achieving this. Kevin has also had the distinction of being the oldest acting sheriff right now in Minnesota. But I would wish.
Mr. Chair, you can call the meetings.
Right.
But
I'd like to point out,
if you're going to be old, I wish you would look it.
Yeah, right. I'd like to point out he's not an acting sheriff; he's an actual sheriff.
Yeah, there you go. And I think I wish he would at least look his age. He looks great for 93, so I'm very proud of that. But I've watched Kevin. I worked with him, and I followed his efforts and the legacy he's created. And so again, I want the opportunity to read his award in recognition of Sheriff Kevin Torgerson's career-long commitment to traffic safety. He is awarded the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety Challenge Coin. As sheriff, he has utilized his leadership and influence to create an environment that allows others the freedom to flourish and develop their creative abilities and gifts to the fullest potential in their efforts to advance traffic safety. As a sheriff has many priorities to uphold, but Sheriff Torgerson has never allowed these to drown out his persistent pledge to traffic safety, resulting in Olmsted County being a safer community to live and to visit. Buddy, Sheriff, there you go. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Let me say something.
You were going to say something.
Yeah.
And there's some other people who would like to say something too, so you better get in your day.
It's all about teamwork, clearly, and Scott kind of alluded to that. I mean, obviously, Chris and Michelle and Alex in the corner and Kyle. It's just a whole list of folks. And I've said to people many, many times, certainly to our staff, man, I wish I could be out there doing traffic stops and doing that stuff. I still got it. I still want to be a part of that. But obviously, I have other priorities and things that I have to do. But it really makes a difference. You as commissioners and other staff that's around here, clearly what we do as a county is we serve people and we try to help people in a way that will help their lives be better. And it's simple as that. And this, I was so happy that we could show Michelle's video because one that Kyle put together, because there's so many things she says in there, her motivation and so many other things. It's so well stated. So I'm not going to say anything more than that, other than that's really at the true heart of what we do, is what Michelle, and why we do it is what Michelle said in the video. So thank you very much. And Scott and these guys back here, they're huge partners, and we can't do what we do without you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
As the sheriff mentioned, it's a team, and that's why we want to do this. But that's why we had to keep the presence of some very distinguished people also a secret. Well, they were aware of what we were going to do down here in Olmsted County and went all the way to the top. And so I'm proud to introduce, and I'm sure you're aware, Mike Hansen, the Director of the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety, Shannon Grable, the Office of Traffic Safety Enforcement Coordinator, and your local representative, Jessica Schleck, TZD Enforcement Coordinator for Southeast Minnesota. If you want to come up and say a few words, Mike, I'm sure you got something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm so proud to have you, sir, my boss.
Thank you, Scott. Much appreciated. Mr. Chair and members, I'll keep my remarks very brief. I know Scott is very good about filling in some of those blanks, but I'd just like to say it is really an honor and a pleasure for me to be here today. Again, as Scott said, my name is Mike Hansen. I have the privilege of serving as the Director for the Office of Traffic Safety at the Department of Public Safety and serve as one of the co-chairs for the Towards Zero Deaths program. I just want to give a huge shout out to Olmsted County, to Sheriff Torgerson, and to everything that happens down here. And I've recognized several of the officers on the police department as well. Southeastern Minnesota is in good hands when it comes to traffic safety and the steps that are being taken to get us to zero. And we can do that. And it's through the commitment of leadership that we will get there. And that's exactly what Olmsted County has in Sheriff Torgerson and what Rochester has in their leadership in their police department as well. So again, it's my pleasure. Great people. That's why I love doing what I do, is because I work with people like this every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you for indulging the surprise, and I thank you for your time. I know it's valuable. My career, 46 years in law enforcement, is winding down, maybe a year, maybe two to go. But I wanted to do this before that time came, because you got some very special people that deserve this recognition, and I'm just honored to be one of the cogs that can help make that happen. So thank you for your time. And again, it doesn't happen unless we have elected officials that are there to support and help them to do their job to make your community safer. So thank you for those efforts as well. Any questions before I sit down of myself or any of these folks?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Deputy Steve, would you have any comments for the board and the public?
I'm good, thank you.
You know?
Chair, I'd like to know his patrol route.
So I was going to ask him after the meeting which roads that you're on. Not that I would ever meet you on that road, of course.
I work
But
fire Monday through Friday.
yeah, right, thank you. So, but I would like to say, Deputy Steve, that you exemplify the values and the sense of purpose that we hope all deputies in Olmsted County will emulate. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Michelle, thank you for your dedication and your ability to come back from a very tragic event and still work with purpose to help the people of Olmsted County. Kyle, I have seen your product many times. And so anytime you want to leave the sheriff's office and come into the county services for media, you let me know. We appreciate that. And Sheriff Torgerson, I think you know that the board does appreciate all of that you do, your many years of service, and the leadership that you provide for the deputies of the county and, of course, for the Sheriff's Association in the region and the state. So thank you very much. All right. We are at the point of our board and committee reports. So, Commissioner Russman, do you have a board or committee report?
Yes. So in HHH committee this morning, we had several great discussions. I'll touch on one that focused around data. As you all know, we've continued to get updates from staff on how they are building systems and dashboards to give us better insights into program impacts, the status of projects, et cetera. And we had an update on FASAKI this morning, which is the Family Support and Assistance Key Indicators tool, and I think that's a it's a term that we're all going to have a lot of fun using over the next several years. But just really good update on some of the data that's going into that system and how it really is providing data and insights for our staff to make really good informed decisions that is going to build into higher level dashboards where we can get snapshots of that data that really talks to us about the number of clients we're serving, how the funds are being used, and current status of projects. So really appreciated that update and look forward to more as those data systems are developed. And Commissioner Cascade, do you want to touch on the NIH Build Up Grant and Community Council, or do you want me to give that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So as another topic that you're all aware of is the Community Council. We've had ongoing updates about that group, which is striving to really build a new model and template for how we engage with the community and bring community members to the table to give us insights into community needs from historically underserved and underrepresented communities. So we got an update on that, and that group is came to us requesting that they go after some grant funds to look at how, once that community council is established, that we can engage those individuals in bringing us information and discussion around how we do a better job of bringing those groups into public health research programs and systems and all around public health. Some of the questions Commissioner Cascade and I had were regarding, community council isn't even formed yet. Are we getting the cart ahead of the horse and going for grant funds? Those grant funds aren't going to hit until 2024, 2025. So in November, staff will be coming to us with an in-depth information and opportunity for us to have a much broader and in-depth discussion about that community council, currently where it is and how they see that progressing to finalization. So they're looking forward, not even having that community council established yet, how they can bring funds to the table right now in anticipation of having that active and going. So good discussions this morning in HHH committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Tyne.
I don't think I have anything that rises to the level of reports. So.
Okay. Commissioner Cascade.
Well, members may notice that we asked to have an agenda item pulled from the full board agenda, which is dealing with the prohibited use of cannabis products. We found that we just had a lot of questions that we thought it needs a little more committee work before it's ready for a full board discussion and decision item. And so we're contemplating perhaps having a separate work group that just sort of looks at where staff are with the cannabis regulation, just to get us all on the same page, and so there's no confusion as it comes out. We also were having some discussion about how we should handle these proclamations that we do for these various financial worker and case aid days and domestic violence awareness month and so on. It's like, at one level, you really want to honor the staff that are doing this work and have some substance behind the board action in this area. And another level, you're kind of like, well, there's so many of these that come in and there's not a lot. We have short meeting times, so we're just kind of contemplating what are better ways maybe to move forward with some of those kind of recognitions. We also had a review of a new the Family Support and Assistance Key Indicators tool that we saw briefly at our board retreat. And I just want to call out that last week I was at the State Community Health Services Advisory Council meeting, and we had our one of our projects was featured of how we're moving to build toward unified kind of community assessment, and we had technical difficulties, so she wasn't able to make the full presentation, but I think it's indicative of how Olmsted County gets called on to lead in the area of public health, and we continue to lead in public health, and we're very glad to have that expertise available for to offer the rest of the state as well. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Senja.
Just briefly, last week I attended out at the Graham Park in the Awney building a meeting that was conducted by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, had to do with the cumulative pollution impacts. And it's a piece of legislation, 11th hour legislation, actually probably poorly constructed, but nonetheless passed, that has to do with the particular facilities with the air permits. I'm not sure how many beyond the waste to energy facility air permits we have in Olmsted County, but people that have air permits and or are going to get them will be subject to this process, which is yet to be defined really. But there's as a part of this process, if you are getting a permit or renewing a permit and are judged to have added to the pollution of your community, there's a community benefit agreement that's going to have to be processed, again, through the Pollution Control Agency. And depending on the severity of your new pollution, that agreement will be adjusted one way or another. So it's there's a lot to go on this one in terms of writing rules. So we might just pay some attention to this as it goes forward and interject ourselves in rulemaking if we feel that's appropriate.
Thank you. All right. So I received a call this weekend from former acquaintances that were associated with the aging committee in the cities, and the call was about a proposal that some people have that it's time for Minnesota to establish a department for aging citizens. So we have a department for children, we have a department for public health for adults, but the demographic reality is that the population, 65 years of age and older, is growing faster than the children right now. And it's projected that in the next 10 years, the people that are 80 years and older will be the fastest growing population, not only in Minnesota, but in the entire nation. All right, so Minnesota will have the fastest growing population of 80 years old, more than any other state in the union. But we have ignored this group of people for a long time, and some people believe that it's time for the legislature to take note. Now, just to talk about this a little bit more, those of you who have followed the history of the boomers know that the boomers changed the United States dramatically from the beginning. So around in the mid-50s, what changed in the United States? Well, they started to build elementary schools. And then 6 years later, what changed? Well, they started to build high schools. Why? Well, because of the tremendous growth of the boomer population. And then they moved on to colleges. And of course, now that age group has moved on, but they are still affecting the not only the political situation, but the consumer situation, and especially the medical situation in the United States. So there are a group of people that believe that it's time for Minnesota to take note of this and to look at a department on aging. So I don't know what will become of it, but I thought you might be interested in knowing that. So if there are no other comments, reports, ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
All right, I have a motion. And I think the second is assumed, so we are adjourned. And we're going to have a lunch break, and then we will begin.
Mr. Chair, yeah, we'll have a committee of the whole over in room 2. I'm not sure if they have lunch in that room, but I would imagine that'd be the way.
Yeah, great.
Same
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks for working that out.
I think 30 minutes.
All right.
We need a break, don't we?
I do.
30 minutes. How about that?
We got, yeah. Oh, we got HRA admin meeting at 1.
HRA admin at 1.
Why?
I don't know, it's on the
Let's
calendar.
delay it.